But then probably it's good we continue then. But the point that I was making with showing these pictures of our center organizing these exercises have to do with how we design and organize it. As you all know, in Norway, we kind of focus so much on trust building and also communication. And so we kind of take this as a pivot when we are thinking of planning exercises with our actors. So how to build trust and how to communicate, we try to make this as a strategy in our exercise planning phases. So there are different forms and different opinions to this, but this is how we see it. And as you can also see that I kind of have a darker side and a lighter side. On my right-hand side, you have knowledge creation, and then on the left-hand side, you have learning maximization. I will also talk about these ones. But as we all know, for planning an exercise event, there's a kind of a cycle that we see this. And first, we start with defining the purpose, and the learning goes with the collaborative actors. Here, we are talking about collaborative exercises where different agencies, different departments come together. So it's not like only one agency working, but you're talking about multi-agencies working together. And sometimes this can be very complex. And that is why we think that at this stage, we need to focus on how to build a trust among the agencies, whether the police, whether the fire, health sector, or even if it's one department, we have to also learn how to communicate among ourselves. At the first stage where we are thinking of defining the purpose for the learning goals for the exercise. And then we also recommend that we sit together and then try to choose a scenario and then try to define what type of exercise this will be. Will it be a tabletop, a full-scale exercise, or whatsoever? And then we try to identify, okay, which audiences should we bring on board? Do we need students? Who should be part of this? And what are the resources available if we look at the agencies that are involved? And then we start to think of how can we plan the exercise, the script. So how should the exercise be? We think up to this level, we are kind of creating a new form of knowledge, because if we look at exercises, events, we think that every crisis event or emergency event is kind of unique on its own, although we might have experiences or know something about it. But if you take the context and the setting, everything, it's kind of new. So we need to try our best to create a form of knowledge that could help us. So here we think that, okay, we should spend time on creating that new knowledge for ourselves. And then we also have to think of how would we do debriefing activities? Who will do what? Who will say what? What are the procedures? And of course, we also see that we need to actually plan for how to evaluate. So evaluation should not just happen. It should be well planned. What should we evaluate? What are the targets? And we think that these parts will also help us maximize what we have created, the knowledge we have created. So the core, as I said, the aim, again, throughout this cycle of these phases is to build trust among the actors and also to improve our communication among the actors, because we see this is what we really need when we face an event. It's most of the times there's trust issues or lack of communication. So we try to put this as core in our work. And I'll reflect upon this later on. But then how does this actually go? Well, like I told you, there was this project by our research team, ASCA, which has to do with the Arctic and then the North Atlantic Security Network. And they prepared a report on this. And the report that they made clearly indicate that most of the times, people just start an exercise one day and then they go straight to full scale. Well, this could be a good approach, but we think different about this. We think that it should be in the form of a staircase. So it should take some time. First, you should start by talking about the actors, meet the actors, and then probably think of incident reports. Do you have any previous incidents? How was it managed? If there's a theory behind, which most of the times there is, we have to talk and reflect about this. But more importantly, the incident reports. And then from there, you move to a different level where you involve the actors again, But at this time, the aim is to brainstorm so that you can actually have workshops and then exchange knowledge about previous events, about the event, how you are going to do it. And then you have another bigger stakeholder event. But again, this also depends. If the size of the exercise is not big, it might be just a small seminar where you meet and talk about this. When we think that all the stakeholders, all the actors kind of have a common ground, then we usually call them on a table where we have a tabletop exercise. We try to first have a first scenario. How will the actors participate? This actually also helps us know which resources are available for each actor and how they can actually collaborate in the initial phases. And sometimes we move on to have simulators at our lab where we kind of game the exercise, especially when we have students involved, before we actually go to the full-scale exercise, which one of it I will talk to you again about. But within all this process, we try to make an evaluation. So at every step, we try to evaluate what can we do better. So we evaluate. So evaluation is integrated from the initial stages. So it's not something we do at the end of the exercise. We do it at every stage of it. Why we do this is that we think that when we go through this staircase, it kind of gives us a better situational awareness about the crisis events, about how people really understand the situation that we are going to do. So it helps us have a better perception, of course, and understanding, and also project what could happen, especially during the evaluation processes. We see that people come out with different opinions and ideas, which later we share with them so that it can help them make better decisions. And we have one work that we did on this, and we saw that there was a very good correlation when we practice continuous using this staircase approach, especially with level 1 of situational awareness, which has to do with perception, and level 2, which has to also do with comprehension, and of course level 3, which has to do with projection. But then we also saw that there was a very weak correlation between perception, how people create their perception, and how people improve their understanding of events, and how people can project. So within this, it doesn't mean that if someone has a better projection, perception, the person would end up having a better understanding. But what is key here, again, is that we should try our best to improve on this. And one way to do this, again, is to train people, is to exercise more and more. So then I will now talk about one of our exercises, the Oversnod, which is a big exercise here in Norway, where we include almost about 1,000 participants participating in this. And it's between 4 main actors, the fire department, the health department, the police, and also from the university. So we represent, and we also have the joint rescue. So every year is a rotation. This year it was organized by the Joint Rescue Coordination, and we at NULAB were very lucky to be part of the evaluation committee. They kind of have a plan, an organizational plan that starts with the big actors who have signed an MOU, and then it comes down where they have working groups. One of the working group is the evaluation, which we were part. But one working group that I would like to focus on now has to do with the student group. So the students have their own roles spelled out, and then I want to talk to you with the improvements and the benefits that we see the students recommended to us. So the exercise started with a vessel that had an accident here in Badu. And if you can see, that is where I've marked as an X in red. And then they have to bring the vessel and the people who were in it to the incident command, which is circled as a green. And we created a hospital at the university here in Badu, which is, you have the white cross marked over there. So we have to send them over there where we have different actors playing. And in this exercise, I will focus again on the students. We have 130 students who came from different departments and faculties like the paramedicine, nursing, journalism, film and television production. And we also have our own master students in preparedness and crisis communication, and some students from journalism, who participated in this exercise. In all, there were 130 students, mixing with the main actors of the exercise. So this picture you see is our students and then an expert. The students are participating, helping the person out, but it's also supervised by someone from the health department. So our students played a lot of roles, like I told you first. First, our students from TV production have to do the makeups for the students who will be involved in the exercise. And then when the incident happened in the vessel, the students also provided first aid to each other. And some students, of course, they have to abandon the vessel. So they have this life jackets that they have to jump into the sea. And yes, those students really, some of them really enjoyed by having a lift by the rescue coordination center, the helicopter, and then sending them to our university hospital. So you see over on top of my right-hand side, these are students, and the one in the black attire is a supervisor who is checking on how the students are actually treating it. In the end, with the help of the students, we came out with 2 important reports. I will talk with you briefly, I think this is my last but 2 slide, about the reports, what the students really think we should do. Well, in the end, we asked the students how they see the exercise. So the green parts, as it goes green, it means they agree more to it. And when it's blue, then it means deep blue, then it means they think we should do better about it. So first we asked the students how the exercise was able to help them create a better situational awareness, especially understanding the information exchange. Of course, many of our students agree with it, but again, as an institution, we also think we need to do more, especially as 9 and 13 students think that they didn't kind of catch up with it. And then we also asked our students to reflect on the decisions made at the right time by the main actors, because the students were involved and the students kind of have a theory behind how these decisions are made. 29 students think that the decisions were not made at the right time, although we have many students saying the decisions were made at the right time. But as an institution, again, we're also concerned about improving how these 29 students, their understanding, their view, we can improve upon it. It goes on like that to even talk about, they also discussed about the different actions and options available. So the decision makers, the people in charge took the decisions, but we then asked our students, could there have been alternatives in these decisions? And that is the last one. You will see that 20 and 16 thinks that to a certain degree, there could have been other options. Although different students, 17, 42, and 24 also think that it was somehow good enough. But again, the point here is that because the students have the theory, because we went through this staircase, they can actually have a better understanding of the exercise event. And then this is the last part of the slide probably, and this has to do also with the evaluation, where we also talked about, we asked the students, have you been introduced into the central emergency preparedness concepts? Well, many of them said yes, but again, this is a big group, about 130 students. 9 and 13 were not so satisfied with the way we went through the emergency preparedness concepts and how we came out with the exercise. And we also asked the students to reflect on if they've got a role to play during the operational exercise, the D-Day of the exercise. 8 to 9 students believe that the role that they played was not so active, although more students, 70 plus, were actually engaged. Again, this also gives us the hint that when you're having a very full-scale exercise where you're involving 100 and plus students, not every student will be satisfied, but then we need to improve on it. This is our view, this is our concept, that we need to engage more people. And overall, we asked the students about the purpose of the exercise, if they really understood the concept, the exercise goals. 4 and 7 things that they didn't really catch up with the exercise, which means that we have to also do more from the planning stage. And this goes back down, I will skip the others and go down, that giving the opportunity of students to participate during the planning of this exercise, where you see that 41 and 29 students actually raised concerns that in the planning phase, they were really not directly involved. Again, in the planning phase, we understand this because in the planning phase, you can't have so many people because you need a certain group. So only reps from the department were part of it. But again, we also see the need to include many students as possible in this planning phase. So these are also reflections that although we have this exercise happening every year involving more students, it also gives us the room to learn more from these exercises, especially with student participation and role. Thank you so much. And if there are any questions, I will like us to reflect upon them. Thank you.
Thank you, James. So one question from my side. Do you hear me? So
yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, great. So from your point of view, what is most challenging to set up this kind of trainings?
Well, I think a lot of factors go into it, but I must say that I'll probably base it on the findings that we had, is that when you want to involve students, it takes much time. It's not something that you can easily do it. For instance, with our Overseas Nord exercise, it takes a year in the planning phase. So we ended it, we did it in April, and then we completed the reports in July. And then after that, they have to start the planning. So, and we are going to have the next one next year, April. So it's a whole, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of actors being involved. So I think the main thing here will be time. It's time consuming.